Yeah, no, I'm just curious what your injury was and what your kind of story is um, in regards to that injury, recovery, how it went. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just give you sort of the cliff notes. So it wasn't like a one-time injury. I was an athlete growing up. I was a gymnast for like the first 9, 10 years of my life, and then kind of just took on everything, including weightlifting, and was very kind of aggressive with all of it. I know on my own, and I was by the time I reached 21. I mean, I was just in chronic. My back hurt all the time. And I went and got the MRIs done because that's really all anyone knew how to do. Well, let's get this kid an MRI. And, at 21, I had severe degenerative changes at L4, L5, L5, S1, multiple fairly significant disc bulges. And then on the right side, L5 and S1 never separated. So that's called a fusion on the one side, which may or may not have had much to do with why those segments were degenerating that significantly at such a young age. I'll never know that. No one will ever know that. So I was like, okay, fine, big deal. I was a collegiate athlete. So when I had to put my shoes on, I'd go through phases where the pain was tolerable, and then it would be not tolerable. So I would just like lie on the ground and put my shoes on and go train rather than have to bend over to put my shoes on. Like I didn't care. I was like, I was that stubborn about it. And just went through like over from age like 21 when it was first like known what was going on in there through to my early 30s. I just did it all anyway. And I'd spend a bit more time stretching, rolling out on the lacrosse ball. No one really knew what to do from a manual standpoint. Sometimes I'd get an elbow in the piriformis if I was lucky, hands through to psoas. Early 30s, I started to experience phases of like numbness down the S1 dermatome. A little bit of drop foot here and there. And I was like, I would text a colleague and be like, oh, my foot. And they're like, I'd be like, it would always be fine in a week or so if I just did things a bit differently in training or spent more time rolling around on a lacrosse ball. I was always able to like maneuver my way out of the next level of, I don't know, shit. Sorry, we're putting up a Christmas tree. It's not my specialty. Derek's like, do I put the star up? I'm like, I don't know.
Sure.
Do we have to? Fine.
Christmas in Florida.
Yeah. And the degenerative changes had just gotten to the point where it was just a bit of a shitstorm. And I think I was 33 or so, maybe 34. And I was just working with clients one day, and this is, I had been competing and all the stuff. And I went home one afternoon, and I was getting out of my car, and I was like, and that was it. I just felt like I was going to puke. I had to crawl up to my condo, and I was done. And like, I had a bunch of those episodes over the years where the disc would just, it would just shift a little bit more and compress upon a nerve, and I'd go down. But 2 or 3 days on a lacrosse ball and, lots of body weight lunges just to keep my glutes active, I would always come out of it. Not this time. I called a DO friend of mine. It was like an afternoon. I finally made it up to my condo. I'm like, I'm in trouble. He came running over with an injection of lidocaine and a bunch of other stuff, and just got the injection right into like L5S1. And he was with me sitting on the floor. I was crying, I was hurting, and a couple of hours that injection kicks in, and I'm like, okay, I was walking around, I'm like, I think I'm gonna be okay. And that night, it was just the night was just the dermatome of S1 feeds like the lateral glute, hamstring, lateral calf, Achilles reflex, and the foot. So that night, as that injection wore off, it was like a neurological like shutdown. It was the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. It was a mix of cramping and like the nervous system on that side down my left leg just going, and midway through that morning, my foot was numb, and I was like, fuck, this isn't good. Like, it was really numb. And I went, what did I do? I trained. I did pull-ups and chest press, and I'm like, because I really wasn't in pain anymore. But as the day went on, foot numb, calf numb. By the end of the day, the whole S1 dermatome was like, I'm like, I think I have dropped leg. And, so a couple of days went by, and I kept training. I would have to like watch my foot doing lunges so that I didn't fall, because I couldn't feel it. It was numb. And I was talking to my colleagues, and they're like, yeah, this doesn't sound good. Get on some prednisone. So I got on prednisone, a prednisone pack. That wrecked my GI system. So I was only on that thing for like a day, because the first step was trying to calm down the inflammatory process that was obviously going on. And I just lost the ability to walk properly. It was like I had a broken ankle. People were asking me what was wrong with my foot and ankle, because when that dermatome goes and it's numb, you can look at your hand and your arm and you know that it's there, but you can't use it. Like calf raises, like no calf raises. No, like I would support myself and force myself to do calf raises, but no worky. It's like a fake paralysis almost. So that went on for a couple of weeks before I started to really take it seriously, because I had always bounced out of it. Finally went to get an MRI, and my colleague was like, it was a 7 millimeter disc protrusion that had fragmented, and so the pieces of the disc had actually broken and wrapped down around the S1 nerve root, which is why I lost the S1 dermatome, because there were pieces of a disc wrapped around it. So the neurosurgery wasn't to get me out of pain. It was to be like, if we don't get those disc pieces off the S1 nerve root, not only are you going to lose that nerve root, but you're going to lose the neurological function of your left leg probably forever. We're not even sure that you're going to get it back, but you need a neurosurgeon, like a consult, like tomorrow. So that's the short story. And then so I had neurosurgery, got the disc fragments pulled off, and I had surgery on a Friday afternoon. It was an outpatient thing. Surgery was very easy. That wasn't complicated in any way. And the neurosurgeon was like, yeah, went in, cleaned it up. No one knew what was going to happen from there. And I was training by Monday morning. I couldn't feel my legs still. It took me a good 6 months to get that feeling back. And because with the nervous system, it takes the nerves about a millimeter a day of growth from L5S1 down to the Achilles reflex. That's a long journey. So, I'd lost.
That's the sciatic nerve?
No, wasn't involved at all. It was the S1. It was the S1 dermatome. So the S1 nerve root comes out of the S1, out of the sacrum.
Yeah.
So it's the whole lateral line. The sciatic nerve really wasn't involved much at all. So what happened is the tissues in my leg, I lost a good 3 inches off of most of my calf. I still don't have an Achilles reflex on the left side, but it doesn't actually inhibit my ability to run. So it was just from there, it was just a step-by-step rebuild. I never stopped walking. I would like strap my foot into a bike and make myself go bike riding. I made myself use my leg and forced calf raises even when I couldn't do them, because I knew that one day I was going to get my leg back. And sure enough, it was probably about 4 months after neurosurgery where I woke up in the middle of the night, my left calf was cramping, and I was like, yes, because a cramp means it's coming back. And so it's like there was like a reboot of the whole left side. And then I discovered gymnastic strength training via Rob Wolf's podcast, and I just went after rebuilding my spine from a mobility standpoint, because I'd never trained flexion. That was always contraindicated, and I bought into that because it hurt. So, pain, I bought into it. That's the short story. So that was neurosurgery, I think was in probably 7 years ago. And so my back's amazing. Like my back is probably better than anyone's back that we work with here. The stuff that I still struggle with, but I'm really getting to the bottom of now, are the fascial lines that just, when I lost the reflex, and then I lost the tibial reflex, and I had all these nerve conduction tests done, so they could actually conclude what reflexes I had lost. And it was the majority of the ones on the left side. I had to rebuild that, but then the tissues are weird because the fascial lines just kind of go, like everything just sticks together like glue. That's been the journey that's been the most eye-opening for me, is actually finding the right combination of training and manual work, and just getting into those tissues with anything like edges of benches, edges of barbells, just to open the lines up so that when I do things like running, the response isn't just my leg turns to cement the next day, which was exactly how that went for a bunch of months. Drove me nuts. And now I'm actually at the point where that's resolving itself, and I'm really, really getting back to full sprint capacity without paying for it in fascial tension, and the whole line's freezing up. So that's the story of that. Best journey of my life. I wish it hadn't happened, but if it hadn't have happened, I just would have been pig-headedly doing my own thing.
Yeah. Every injury is an opportunity to learn, right?
Holy shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was one of those people growing up that made fun of people with back pain. I was like, why is that person crawling into the clinic? They must be wimp. Like,
I similarly, I had 2 herniated discs, L4, L5, S1, S2. Pretty common, but so it's similar kind of story, just way less severe than yours. But I was a regular in chiros and acupunctures, physios, spent thousands of dollars on stuff. And, you know, it would be temporary Band-Aid heal.
Yep.
And then I'd go train, and it would be 2 weeks back where, you know, sleeping was hard. Everything was difficult. And, you know, I was pretty young. It happened to me in 2014. So 23 years old, similar to you.
Yeah.
At that time, you know, training was difficult. I didn't really know much about anatomy or, you know, how a spine operated. I was very much afraid to bend my spine. I was told not to round my spine. And it's funny how that's so like mainstream. It's funny how it's becoming mainstream now. You know, a Jefferson curl, you see it on like every mobility page, and it worked for me. And you know, in terms of training, all my physios and chiros, they were kind of telling me, you know, you can't fix it. It's going to be with you for life. You're never going to be able to restore your athletic potential. And I was like, I never really believed it. I never really liked anyone telling me anything. Like, I kind of thought it was bullshit. And I was like, I got to figure something out. So yeah, then I just started doing my own studies, and through ATG, like that's what kind of helped me. I won't say, like, I won't give it all the credit, although it is wonderful, but like it helped me maintain regain like lumbo-pelvic control. Like my back injury was like, I'm sure you could agree that it's just like a breeding ground for inflammation in like your glutes, your thighs, your hip flexors. Blood was not going to that area, and I didn't really know how or where to start, and definitely helped me a lot. And
love it. Guys, I would love to, I've got a call I need to jump on, to be continued. Yeah, Keegan?
Yeah, great to connect. And next time we'll dive a little bit deeper again. And I'll put up the recording for the other time as well with the back one as well, so people can dive into that. But yeah, looking forward to it. Hopefully see you in April, but we'll chat for sure before then.
Yeah, thanks for your time, guys. And I'll confirm as soon as I book my flights to get to LA, I'll let you know.
Perfect. Yeah, good to see you on.